I'd like to call the Budget Review Committee to order. It's June 7th, 2022. It's 7:18 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber and via Zoom. The meeting link can be found on the agenda and the city's website. There was a delay as we had a technical problem, but we are now getting started. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. If you are participating via Zoom, please state your presence, reason for not attending the meeting in person, and whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. The clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman at Large Laurie Wilshire.
I'm here.
Alderman John Sullivan.
Here.
Alderwoman at Large Shoshana Kelly.
I'm here.
Alderman Ernest Jetty.
Here.
Alderman John Cathy is absent. Alderman at Large Michael O'Brien is present. And our chairman, Alderman Richard A. Dowd.
Present.
Also in attendance this evening, Lisa Photo, Public Works Director, Dan Hudson, City Engineer, Brian Conant, Superintendent of Parks and Recreation, John Ibarra, Superintendent of the Streets, David Boucher, Superintendent of Wastewater, and Jeffrey LaFleur, Superintendent of Solid Waste.
First item on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in public comment? I see no one here. I don't see anyone online asking to speak.
We don't see anyone on the screen at all.
So, okay. So the next item is communications. Without objection, I'll suspend the rules to allow for the introduction of two communications that were received after the agenda was prepared. One from, you want to say? Go ahead.
Yeah, if you want.
Go ahead.
We, Mr. Chairman, we received communication from David R. Heath, Treasurer, National Airport Authority. The reason is summary of financial position and operating results. Additional correspondence from Fred S. T. Bloom. Reason, the tax rate and the spending cap.
There being no objection, I will accept the two communications and place them on file.
Alderman Dowd,
Yes.
can I interrupt for just 1 second? Is that Michaela's screen? Because that says
Maybe.
6-8. She should be logging into the 6-7. I believe today is 6-7, right? So that's probably what was wrong. She was logged into the 6-8, causing to use the same number as this meeting. So if she wants to log in there, she needs to log in at 6-7. Also, Alderman Tebow and Alderman Timmons is here for the record.
Okay, and Alderman Timmons and Alderman Tebow. And
Oh, yes. Yeah. My,
all right, so Michaela, all set?
I can, yeah, that's it. So you're ready to go to,
Alderman Camo is online.
okay.
Alderman Camo?
Alderman Como.
Okay.
I think we got everybody. Can only solve one problem at a
It's a-
time.
So unfinished business,
I am good though. Unfinished business, there is none.
new business resolutions,
There are none.
new business ordinances,
There are none.
table in committee.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to remove from the table R-22-035, which is relative to the adoption of the fiscal year 2023 proposed budget for the city of Nashua, general, enterprise, special revenue, and grant funds.
Okay, the motion is to remove R-22-035 from the table. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, tonight we're going to be overviewing for the Budget Committee the Public Works and Engineering Departments. Departments 160, 161, 177, 168, 169. And on the agenda, you'll see the pages on the revenue and the appropriations. But before we do that, I just want to announce that Monday night, we are going to have a special meeting of the Board of Aldermen, not the Budget Committee, the Board of Aldermen, to discuss the spending cap. That's the only thing on the agenda, correct, Alderman Wilshire?
Correct.
And it is after Human Affairs?
We're not suspending to do CDBG.
So there'll be a meeting before it, but it should be over by the time we get to 7, was it 7 or 7:30? 7? 7. Okay, so the mayor, Attorney Bolton, and Mr. Griffin, at a minimum, will be here to discuss the calculations for the spending cap. So I just wanted to announce that. And, okay, so the first item is the Department 160 Administration Engineering, revenues on page 39, appropriations on page 157. Director Photo, do you want to come up and? Yeah, oh yeah, you can come up, sit. Hopefully we have enough.
Are you doing public, are you doing first public comment?
We're already by
Go
public
for it.
comment.
Oh, well, the audio wasn't working, so
We have problems.
I guess I missed that.
No, I looked at the screen, I didn't know who you are, I know your name is not Right to Know New Hampshire, but that's the title you use, but the computer showed you were lacking bandwidth, and there was no hand up.
Oh,
Thank you.
We'll have
Okay.
another one at the end. Okay, so again, the first item is administration engineering. Director Photo.
Thank you very much, Alderman Dowd. Good evening. Chairman Dowd and members of the Budget Committee. As Alderman O'Brien mentioned, my name is Lisa Photo. I serve as Director of Public Works. You mentioned everybody who is joining me this evening with the exception of Carolyn O'Connor, who is our Senior Financial Manager. So I just also wanted to recognize that she's here, given that she put this budget together for us. So we're here to present the budgets for the Division of Public Works. Our increase from fiscal year 22 is 4.8% for our general fund departments, which include administration, engineering, streets, and parks and recreation. Solid waste and wastewater have larger increases due to the cost of operating the facilities and regulatory requirements. The total fiscal year 23 DPW budget before you tonight is $57,635,779. $27 million or 47% of that is wastewater. $17 million or 29% is solid waste. $8 million or 14% is streets. $3.8 million or 7% is parks and recreation. And $1.7 million or 3% is administration and engineering. As you requested, Alderman Dowd will only present the changes in each budget and of course answer any questions that you may have. So with
Okay.
your permission,
Yes.
we will begin with administration and engineering.
Okay.
And I'd like to turn it over to Dan Hudson, our city engineer.
Director Hudson.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Photo and Mr. Chair. I'm going to start by going through revenue and then follow with expenses. So I'm on page 39 of the proposed budget.
Yep.
We do not have any changes in proposed revenue for this year. Moving to page 157 of the proposed budget, just a couple items I'd like to highlight. We have a reduction in line 51300. That's overtime, and that's just based upon historical usage. A lot of our overtime we charge back to utility companies and that sort of thing, so we haven't found the need for quite so much going forward. Wages on the next line, 51400. We'd like to add an engineering intern for the summer. Changes in benefits are per contracts. Skipping down to line 53107, professional technical services, seeking a $10,000 increase in that line. That is a fund that enables us to secure outside engineering support for whatever may come up. This year we had an emergency issue at a bridge in Mine Falls Park, and we were able to quickly contract that work because we had that engineering line available. Utilities, electricity, gas, all those sorts of things are per historical usage and purchasing guidelines. And I think those are the major items. I'd be happy to address any questions.
Okay, by the way, going forward, the fringe benefits portion is calculated by the city itself, so those aren't, you can't change those, so those are all done by finance. So it's based on the number of people you have in their benefits, so. All right, questions? Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the revenue line for towing due to snowstorms, I noticed that the revenue through 4/30 seemed to fall pretty short of the revenue expectation by about $20,000. Given that it was through the end of April, how do you square up that 30,000 in revenue is where it's going to come in? Seeing as I hope it doesn't snow anymore.
Yes.
That's actually the street
Yeah, it's
department.
the street department question. yeah.
But we can answer that.
Yes.
That's an estimate because that is for the towing, snow towing. So sometimes we might have more snowstorms, so it's higher, so we just average it out.
Yeah, you have to pull the microphones
Oh,
very
sorry.
close, they're very directional.
Hi, sorry. So that's for the snow tows, and that is directly offsets the expenses of the towing.
Follow up? Mr. Chair,
Yes.
follow up?
Yes, follow
Thank
up,
you.
Alderman Sullivan.
Do you have a 2 to 3 year revenue track on that? Has it been over and above 30,000? Has it been under that?
Yes, every
I don't-
time you speak, because there's so many people, please state your name again so the transcriptionist knows who's talking.
Carolyn O'Connor, Finance Manager. I can get that for you if you'd like it.
Thank you.
Okay.
It really, Lisa Photo, Director of Public Works, it really depends upon the amount of snow. This year, we had a lot of ice. We didn't have a lot of snow. So we didn't have as many snow emergencies as we normally do. So you would see a fluctuation year to year for that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well,
All set, Alderman Sullivan?
I did have one question for Mr. Hudson.
Okay.
You mentioned line item 531007. Did I hear that correct? I just could not find that on page 157. Am I looking in the right place?
I think you're referring to 53107.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
under 53.
It's professional and technical services, middle of the page.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions for this area? All right. The next department is 181, Street Department.
Superintendent
And
John
the-
Ibarra.
and the Revenue's on 39 and the appropriation 161.
John Ibarra, Superintendent, Street Department. As you said, 39 of 312 is our revenue. There are no forecast changes there, and it's season to season on the snow towing. And Carolyn will provide you with that information, as you said. Sale of vehicles and equipment, that's if we auction off old pieces of iron, old equipment. On page 161 of 312, under wages, 51400, we'd like to propose adding an interim fleet for intern. So we added 8,160 in the wage line for them. That would help inventorying our fleet items. 54114 in property services, heating gas. That was increased based on usage and purchasing guidelines. Water, again, through purchasing guidelines, we increased that by 8,402, also due to our brine making. Line 54200, janitorial services, we increased that due to the COVID. We added some extra cleaning, keeping the facility sterile. 54207, snow plowing services. We, to meet the budget guidelines, were able to cut 25,000 out of that. So we reduced that from 75 to 50,000. Building and grounds maintenance, 54280. We were able to trim 5,000 out of that to meet the budget directive. 54492 AVL monitoring service. We were able to trim 4,968 out of that line. That was based on a reduction in the contract price. And vehicle repairs and maintenance, 54600. We actually had to increase from 240 to 271, 637. That's due to the increase in the vehicle parts. Moving through supplies and materials, 61300, fuel unleaded. That's contractual. That went up 7,932. 61307, fuel diesel. That went up $18,001 in that line. It's a very volatile market these days. 61514 salt. We increased that line. That was due to the last contract. The prior year, we were at $49.50 a ton for salt, and now we're at $72 a ton. 61542 signs. There's a lot of signs that we're looking to replace. We added 3,000 to that line. 61560 construction materials, 4,000 increase in that line. 61705 tires. There was a $7,520 increase in that line. And that's in the increasing the pricing of the tires themselves. In equipment, 71228, computer software. We raised that $3,000 from $15,750 to $18,750. That's to improve our tactics software, controls our signals. That's about all my changes for the budget, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for streets? Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. On the heating, gas, and the water, you had mentioned that the appropriation was going up because of buying guidelines. Could you explain that a little bit more?
I would look for Carolyn's assistance in the explanation to that as our finance manager.
Okay.
Carolyn?
Carolyn O'Connor, Finance Manager. Purchasing gives out guidelines based on if they've contracted prices for fuel or if they're just buying from the rack. And then we have to factor that in and do an analysis is based on the historical usage.
So this is fuel essentially. That's that's the increase.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if it was equipment or what.
Oh, no.
So,
Oh, no, sorry.
thank you.
Heating.
Yep. Thank you.
All set? I have Alderman Como first, is online. Alderman Como?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just was wondering if I could ask through you to Mr. Ibarra. You mentioned that the snow plowing budget you reduced to make up for some of the other increases. What would happen if we have a heavier than normal winter this year and you go over that budget?
Well, based on the historical usage, I think we would be fine, and that's why we decided we could afford to cut the 25,000 out of that. Now, if we had a more severe winter, we would probably have to go into the trust fund to supplement that line.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa, Photo Director of Public Works. The line that he cut was for contractors, and we have had great difficulty finding contractors in recent years. So that's why we felt comfortable cutting that line, and we can do the plowing with our own staff.
Okay, and again, as a reminder, we have an expendable trust fund. If we have a light winter and we have money left over, we always transfer that money into that expendable trust because there are winters that we get clobbered with snow, and that's where they get their extra money without having to reappropriate money out of the budget.
Correct.
Any other questions? Alderman Jettie. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'll be right with you, Alderman Kelly.
Thank you. When, before I became an alderman, and when I first became an alderman, one of the things that I noticed was, a lot of the roadways, the sidewalks, the islands, they're overgrown with weeds. And since I've become an alderman, there's a lot of other things that get my attention, so I'm not sure if that's still the case. And I'm wondering, do you feel that, that we're taking care of our public properties to the extent that you'd like? Let me ask you that question first. I mean, do you feel we're keeping up with that?
So to the extent possible,
Don't
yes.
forget, mention your name for the.
Oh, Johnny Barrett, Superintendent, Street Department. To the extent possible with our staffing, yes. And every year we do go out and remove the weeds and the sand and the garbage on all our main thoroughfares. All the islands are taken care of annually, if not twice.
Okay, and so you say to the extent possible with your staff, do you feel that you're adequately staffed?
The islands are all gone through, yes, sir.
Okay,
We do that in completion.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Alderman Kelly.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions, if I could.
Mhm.
The first one, I was actually looking at your overall objectives, and I assume it probably connects directly, but I was interested to see that linear feet of sidewalks last year was 2,500,
Mhm.
but we're are looking at about 1,000 this year. Can you discuss why we're,
That's to date,
oh, that's to date.
yes,
We're gonna do more than that?
yes.
All right, great, I love that. And then my other question was, I've lost it, so you can come back to me. You can come back to me.
Any other, you want to hold while we get another question, or you want to find
You
time
can
to
get
find?
another question.
Alderman Tebow?
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to clarify the snow plowing. So you said this was just contractors. I believe we already went over where, for our own people to do it, it comes out of the general fund, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So we have plenty of money in there for a normal winter. This was just in excess, we have to hire contractors for certain things. That's where this money's from, right? Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Alderman Kelly?
Thank you, I remembered. I need to write my notes down these days. So my question was around the different types of trucks that are in your fleet. With diesel going up, would you consider potentially, putting one that's a diesel on hold, or is that a good portion of your fleet? Are there ways that you can kind of finagle that as the market goes up and down?
Are you referring to the fuel itself or the trucks?
Yeah, so like diesel's higher right now than unleaded, and so I'm just wondering kind of what our fleet looks like and how that's gonna impact us.
Well, I believe we're locked in for the season, at least at this time. It is a volatile market, so moving forward, that could be subject to change, but we should be set at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Johnny Barrett, Superintendent, Streets.
Nicely done.
That's all I have, thank you.
Any other questions for streets? Seeing none on the line. The next is 177, Parks and Recreation, revenue on page 40, appropriations on 165.
Hello, everyone. Brian Conant, Superintendent of Parks and Recreation. I want to speak to the changes on page 165 out of 312. Account number 51400 is going to be increased by $12,647. That's wages and seasonal temporary wages. It's an increased rate for seasonal staff. We found that we had to go from $15 an hour to $17 an hour and able to get people in our department. So that's where that came from. Account number 54100, electricity, is being increased by $13,455. It's estimated increase due to historical usage and purchasing guidelines. Account number 54141, water, is going to be increased by $7,720. Again, increase due to historical usage and purchasing guidelines. Account number 54821, equipment rental, is going to be increased by $9,000. That's due to the additional porta potties we're going to be renting next year. Count number 55307, it's mileage reimbursement. It's going to be increased by $500. That mileage reimbursement is for the pool coordinators. Account number 61156, chemicals, pool chemicals, is going to be increased by $2,500. It's just increased by the cost of the pool chemicals. Everything's gone up this year when it comes to supplies. It doesn't matter if it's athletic field paint, you name it, everything's going up. Miscellaneous supplies, account number 61299 is going to be increased by $2,500. It's just increased again due to the cost of supplies. Account number 61300, fuel unleaded, is going to be increased by $1,635 due to historical usage and purchasing guidelines. Account number 61307, fuel diesel, is going to be increased by $4,072, again, due to historical usage and purchasing guidelines. And account number 61799, vehicle parts and supplies, is going to be increased by $25,000, and again is due to the increased cost of supplies or parts. I'd like to answer any questions, if there are any.
Questions of Park and Rec? Alderman Tebow?
Are we gonna go over revenue as well? Thank you, by the way, Mr. Chairman. Or can I ask questions on the revenue piece of it?
Did revenue change, or? Because you can ask a question on revenue.
Okay. So I have a couple questions on revenue. So the first one is I see basketball, baseball, and swimming all going down this year, and part of that was swimming definitely was COVID related.
Yes.
And I think the hit on local baseball and local basketball has gone down. Kids playing less after the COVID years.
Yeah.
Do we think we're going to get back up to those rates of 20,000 and 7,000 playing those sports?
I would like to think so, moving
I would
forward.
hope so.
I would hope
Don't
so.
forget to mention your name again for the transcription.
Sorry, Alderman Dowd. Brian Conant, Superintendent of Parks. I would like to think so, to answer your question.
Okay. And follow up, please.
Follow up?
So, how do I get a rake at Ledge Street Field? I just need one more rake. Just kidding. So field rental fees, I see, went up quite a bit, even though it seems like less kids are playing these sports. We charge the local leagues for that. Do we charge Cal Ripken? Do we charge Little League? I know Cal Ripken lets AAU teams play there. Do we collect money from them, or?
Anyone that uses the fields is being charged.
I'm
As
not
far
sure
as-
about that.
As far as I'm concerned, yeah.
Because I ran Cal Ripken for 2 years, and I don't remember ever giving any money to the city.
So now
Well,
you owe,
Sounds like you got some back.
So I'm not part of that organization anymore, thank
You're
God.
still old.
yes, Director Photo?
Lisa Fota, Director of Public Works. So there are probably two fields where that may not be the case. So Cal Ripken maintains Doobie Field. And then Little League maintains
LaJoy,
LaJoy, thank you.
LaJoy.
So they have, we do not maintain those fields.
Right.
So they may be allowing other organizations to use their fields, and we may not be getting revenue from that. But they maintain everything. They maintain the fields, they maintain the concessions, they do everything.
Follow up.
And that is correct, but Murray Field, which is probably one of our most diamond fields, right in front of Holman Stadium, there's concessions. I know there's AAU teams playing there, and those teams charge, $2,000, $1,200 for their kids to play. So if they're using those fields for free, we should be receiving some of that back.
Lisa Fota, Director of Public Works. To the best of my knowledge, they're being charged for Murray Field. That is a
Okay.
field that the city maintains.
Okay.
Cal Ripken, they did used to maintain that field, no longer,
Right.
the city maintains that field. The only two are LaJoy and Doobie that are
Okay,
being
and-
maintained by outside organizations.
Just one more follow-up on that. Do we know why the field rental fees went so far up and now they're gonna come down for this year as far as budgeting?
I-
An estimate.
Lisa Fota, Director of Public Works, it's more of an estimate. The field, the facility rentals are the same.
The estimate of the 19,000, that's an estimate?
No, that's an actual.
But we think we're only gonna, so the 12,000 is the estimate, but we're way over that estimate, right?
Lisa Fota, Director of Public Works, that's correct.
We wouldn't wanna bake that in.
I think that, and again, I don't have the numbers, but I think that that's based on historical revenue that we've received.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I think I had Alderman Sullivan and Alderman Kelly.
Thank you, Chairman Dowd. Bit of a selfish question, but I did hear you say that you're going to add more porta potties in the city. As a runner, I'm curious to know if you know where these porta potties will be.
Lisa Fota, Director of Public Works. We'll be putting one at the library. There will be one near Bagel Alley. I think where the others are. There's already one on Spine Road. And these are actually being strategically placed for our homeless community. That's why we're adding some to try to help out that situation. And we're working with community outreach workers, and they will be helping us find out the best place for the porta potties. I think another site that was mentioned was behind the Pheasant Lane Mall, where one was needed. So I can give you an update as I learn more about that.
Thank you.
All set on that? Alderwoman Kelly?
Alderman Sullivan didn't ask my question.
Alderman O'Brien?
Thank you. Director Fota, I'll direct it to you. I'll give Mr. Conant a break here since he's new.
Oh,
But
thank you, Alderman Dowd.
I too, got to speak in a little selfishness. I am at large position, but as you know, I live in Ward 9, and I would like to talk about St. Andrew's Field. It occurs to me, and I may be incorrect, but most of the parks have, and we're talking about the top park, excuse me, have been upgraded. And it seems that this particular park has not. I understand we're on the waiting list and, satisfied with patients, but however, been through a couple of directors and haven't seen it. And looking at the budget, I think we're a little short for this. Am I correct?
Lisa Fota, Director of Public Works. Yes, that's correct, Alderman O'Brien. We're at about $75,000 short to be able to put in a playground for that community.
So follow up if I may?
Yes. Follow up.
So probably the best thing for us to do is maybe at the wrap-up session, but I say for the education of all the members of the board, I would be correct in assuming that if we could some way appropriate additional funding towards this, because I think you want to do a quality job, not just put any less than, unsafe or cheap or something like that equipment for the kids. That when we have our wrap-up session, that maybe we could try to see if we could do something. Because I am correct, this is the last park that needs to be done, top park, in a way.
Lisa Fota, Director of Public Works. The only other one that comes to mind, Alderman O'Brien, is Greeley Park.
Right.
That playground badly needs to be updated. But yes, Andrews Park, St. Andrews Park is one of the last parks that really badly needs updating.
All right, thank you. And just a follow-up to the board, you know what I'm going to be advocating for, so.
Just so we get it on the record, as Alderman Como pointed out, there's a lighting problem at the baseball field at Fairgrounds Middle School, sorry. And I know that we've got an estimate for that, fixing those lights, replacing the poles and the lights and everything. Evidently, right now, it's a safety problem, but the new estimate is,
Lisa Fota, Director of Public Works, about $275,000.
okay, just so that people know.
And that-
Alderwoman Kelly? Go.
That is for, I just want to clarify, that is for poles and lights.
Yes. Alderwoman Kelly?
Thank you. I actually was gonna ask if Greeley band shows under Park and Rec.
By the way, could you get closer to your microphone?
Sorry, I was sitting up and then I got comfortable. I was wondering if Greeley Park and the band shell is under Parks and Rec. So my question is around, the sound system has really been having trouble the last few times I've gone to an event there. The mics have cut out, so I'm wondering if that is something that's been addressed or you would need additional budget to fix.
It is. Brian Conant, Superintendent of Parks and Recreation. To answer your question, the speakers showed up at Greeley Park today. And we're going to move ahead with replacing the speakers and the lighting at the band shell. And that should happen within the next couple of weeks. So all the materials are in. So
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Any other questions from Park and Rec? Just for a public announcement, again, the entire site at Pennachuck Middle School, including the field in the back, is, we've had a discussion on it, is going to be closed for the entire summer. There will be signage up shortly. And they will be fencing in, including the bridge across Henry Burke. There'll be a sign on the far side that says it's closed because we have so much construction going on. It would be a danger for anybody to be in that area. A lot of heavy equipment, you know, a lot of work going on. So, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, the next item is Department 168, Solid Waste Fund. And that is revenue on 222 and appropriations on 223 through 227.
Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. We'll go over the revenues, page 222. State aid reimbursements going down a little bit. That's from our state aid. Cover material revenue is going up a little bit, 250,000. We use all the cover material that's coming into the landfill. We're using that for covering our trash at night, which is DES regulated. So we've been taking in enough of that. Any other big changes? Interest income, miscellaneous revenue, that's down. That's from our, I'm assuming that's from our loans and everything for bonds. General obligations are going up. That's for our capital improvements. You'll hear about that at the end of my talk. If you want to go over to page 223 for my appropriations. Wages, full times, overtime, 551, that's all contractual. Fringe benefits, that's all contractual, 5200s. The 5300, 53107, that's going up a bit there because of my NHDES testing requirements from anything that happens at the landfill. We have to do, reporting and everything. So I have my engineers, Sam Bornhead, usually work on all that to give us some answers. Accounting and auditing, that's historical debt, usage. 54487, equipment repairs and maintenance, that's going up. That's because of our big equipment, same thing as all the other departments that have already spoken about. The parts are going up, increasing in price. 54600, vehicles, repairs and maintenance. That's all of our trash trucks and everything. That's our parts that are going up in that. Page 224. 55699, that's going up a little bit there because of our potential for a grinder rental to crush up our demo. And it's also for some groundwater maintenance that we do through the state where we have to put in occasional wells for groundwater monitoring. 61560, construction materials. That's going up a bit for repair to some of my outbuildings there. I have buildings that are, 40, 50 years old that need to be repaired. Roofs have to be fixed. Some walls have to be repaired. And also that's going to be, in that amount there is also for gas well repairs. We're doing a lot of gas well replacement repairs. We're adding more wells to the landfills. So having those wells, we have to do a little bit more maintenance to them. 71228, computer software, that's my scale software. That's a contract that we have with them to make sure that we're up and running and taking in our pricing at the scale, which makes the money for the landfill. Page number 226. My last, or one of my big ones here is 89701, transfer to closure trust fund. That's a DES requirement, and it's estimated by our engineers. Sanborn Head has to do an estimate yearly for us, telling us how much we have to put away for closure funds. So when the landfill finally closes, we'll be able to cap it, do all our maintenance to it. And then my capital improvements, which I spoke to before, is $7,050,000, a request. That's a big one, but this is for our, I'm asking for a GPS landfill compactor and dozer system. That'll help me compact the trash properly, make sure that we're not overfilling areas. It'll tell me where I can do my side slopes and everything. $5 million of that's gonna be for my landfill phase 3 zigzag design. This is gonna gain us some more airspace in the phase 3 area, which I'm going through right now for, with DES to permit. We're expecting to be able to start construction of that very soon. And then the soil wall, as some of you know and some of you might not know, we had to build a soil wall at one point to delineate the trash from the residents of Nashua. We have to have a 500-foot setback. This money's here is also gonna help us gain some more airspace. As I built the wall, we gain airspace within inside the landfill, so that's gonna be about $1.8 million to potentially complete the whole project when needed. If that's all my appropriations, if there's any questions, I can answer them.
Questions? I have Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you. Mr. LaFleur, we recently raised the construction debris rates. Can you just give a brief update on how that applies to this budget and how we're doing with that? And what was the goal? Is to save the landfill for future use. So if you could hit those points, please.
Absolutely. Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. We increased the rate from $90 to $300 a ton in the hopes that we would deter people from bringing the C&D to the landfills. It actually worked very well. That's going to show in our revenue at some point that, we raised it up high enough to deter the people from bringing the construction and demolition into the landfill, which doesn't compact as well as trash, saving, airspace every year. So we, as a group, we all decided that, raising the cost to eliminate that amount would help save us airspace. So we had to, we're down below half of what we've taken in before. So it's working out perfect. We've seen a really big decrease in taking in C&D.
Excellent.
Director Poto, do you have a response?
I was going to add, Lisa Photo, Director of Public Works. I just have some numbers. 40 days before the price increase, we took in about 1,200 tons, and we are at the average tonnage per load is about 161.63. The revenue was 112,000. 40 days after the price increase, we took in 347 tons and averaged 108,000 or 109,000, almost 109,000 in revenue. So our revenue remained fairly stable, but the tonnage went way down. So the program has been very successful so far.
Alderman Kelly?
Thank you. So, sale of recyclables. I know recycling is something we've been talking about for a long time. China didn't want it. You have the same revenue projection. I wonder if you could speak to that.
Absolutely. Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. That 220,000 there is actually just for the sale of our recycling toters. So we just did a historical estimate on that we project that's how much we'll take in over that.
If I could follow up.
Follow up?
Can you talk to how recycling is going and if it's still costing us money and where that hits your budget?
Absolutely. Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. Recycling last month, we actually we're on the right side of it. We were making money. Made $1.34 a ton. Not a lot of money, but we're making money. But again, that's a very volatile system right now. It could drop right off again, and we could be paying this month. Gradually, it's been going the right way, but $1.34 is still a positive, and we're happy with that.
If I could follow up. I know it's volatile, but do you feel like it's headed towards starting to make revenue again?
Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. Yeah, I believe it will. In fact, we just went to contract with the vendor that we've been working with for a lot of years, and they feel that we're on the right side of it. And unfortunately, I have to budget for the worst-case scenario, hoping for the best, and, right now, we're doing well.
I had one other question.
One other question?
Thank you. License and permit fees, you have them as appropriation. I would expect it to be under revenue. Am I misunderstanding? Under 55, line is 55514.
Yep, Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. That's our air permits, like our Title V permits for the landfill. We have to pay for those. Some of our groundwater permits we have to pay for, so that's why it's in appropriations.
Can I ask one more follow-up? Just
Follow up, go ahead.
where do the fees that people pay to get their stickers, if they want to, where does that come in?
I believe Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste, that'd be the disposal fees, it would be under that, under
Okay.
the general.
44514.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Alderman Sullivan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 3 questions around revenue, and these might be general, just city budgeting questions. My first question goes around line 49-100. When you transfer money into the general fund, you're showing it as revenue. Why? Is that really revenue, or is that just, we're just moving money around?
I'll let Carolyn answer that. I mean,
O'Connor.
I can take a
Carolyn
stab.
O'Connor, Finance Manager. That is the transfer from the general fund into the enterprise fund to true up so that we cover the full expenses. So it is a transfer because it's coming from the 2 different funds.
Follow up, please.
Follow up, Alderman Sullivan?
So just to press on that a little bit more, from what I understand, going to page 226, there's the appropriations of 17 million, less revenues, 11 million. Amount subsidized by the general fund is 5.8 million. So next year, are we gonna see 5.859 transferred into the general fund? Is that how that works?
It's not, it's coming from the general fund.
Correct. So next year, when we do the budget again, are we gonna see that amount as an inter-fund transfer show up as revenue?
Yes, if you look on the, if you go back to page 222 on the revenues,
Yep.
the actual to date is 5,188,908,
Right,
and that was the transfer for the current fiscal year.
okay.
So this 5,859,969 would be there.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. I have 2 more questions, if I may.
Okay.
Line 45207 on interest income. It's dropped a bit. What is that? What is interest income on what exactly?
Carolyn O'Connor, Finance Manager. That is on if we are holding bond money or money in the bank.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. And finally, general obligation bond proceeds, 48300.
Carolyn O'Connor, Finance Manager. That is when we sell our bonds. And
Okay.
then we have to show the revenue that comes in from it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for those
Okay.
explanations.
Any other questions? Alderwoman Kelly?
Thank you. I was wondering, you talked about the capital improvements and what that money is for. I was just wondering if you could give us a little bit more background. It's a big number for some people, so I know you said it's going to give you more space. Does that give us more time in our landfill?
Yes, Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. Yes, the $5 million for the zigzag, that gains us airspace, which is time in our landfill, how much trash can actually go into the area that we're building up. When we first went out to bid for the Phase 3 landfill, we were, looking at a certain amount of airspace. I had to hold off on the zigzag. There was a sticking point with DES. They didn't like it, the design, or they just didn't have a good feel about it. So we got rid of the zigzag part of it just to get us going so we have airspace. This $5 million, we were originally at 10 million for the first phase but we backed it off, so we only did about $4 million to do the first phase. This is the second phase of the landfill, and this will gain us, I want to say it's going to gain us at least 4 more years of airspace.
If I could follow up?
Follow up?
Can you just give us a general sense of, so 4 years of airspace, like what are we looking at in terms of when we have to cap our landfill?
Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent of Solid Waste. That's a little,
It's a big question.
well, it is a big question because capping the landfill, we already have the monies set aside for that. That's the closure fund that we're already doing. So we don't have to, let me say that if I have a certain amount of area that's already filled and we can't put any more in there, I have to cover it with an intermediate fill. I don't have to cover it technically with, I don't have to cap it right away, if that's the question you're asking. So I can buy time legally through DES to do this. I'm not quite sure if I answered your question 100% or not.
If I could clarify,
Yeah, sure.
I'm just wondering, I mean, I think it's an asset that we have in Nashua that not many cities have. You know, what's the longevity of our landfill as you're going into these phases? Like, how long do you think it's gonna be around?
Oh, absolutely. Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent of Solid Waste. Right now, I'm looking at about 7 years left with the phase 1, 2, and 3 landfill that we're working in. And we just actually got good news that DES gave us, we're administratively complete for the phase 4 permit, which would gain us another 40 years of airspace. So we're hoping to get that completed this year by October, November timeframe, get a blessing from DES, and that'll secure 40 years of airspace for the city of Nashua. So we're looking good for a bunch of years right now.
Great.
All set. Any other questions? I have a couple. When we did the increase for construction debris, we reviewed of all of the fees charged by other cities and towns. Are we looking at possibly raising other fees to be more in line with other cities and towns in the area? Director Photo? Or?
Lisa Photo, Director of Public Works. So our transfer station or recycling center really doesn't operate as most other communities operate theirs. In most communities, you pay for whatever you bring in. If that's a mattress, you pay for a mattress. You bring in a TV, you pay for the TV. We just charge a $5 fee, and you can bring in almost anything for free. So we would have to change the way that we currently operate the landfill.
So the stickers that you give to sell to residents, I think, is that $5?
$5.
Have we looked at raising that? When was the last time we raised that fee?
No, I don't think ever. I don't know. I don't remember. Certainly not in my time.
So that's a while ago, 'cause I don't remember
Yes.
it either. And I've been around for a while. So I'm just wondering whether we ought to, is there enough resident traffic there would be any kind of significant increase in revenues?
It wouldn't be significant. Well, unless you increased it significantly, but if you doubled it, it wouldn't be that significant.
Yeah, okay. Alderman Jenny?
Well, following up on that, we charge residents $5, if they're over a certain age, is it 65? Or they get
Zero.
65 is zero.
Yeah, but what about commercial? I thought that's where you were going with that question. Have we looked at our commercial rates? How do they measure, with other cities and towns? Does it make any sense to, raise those rates either for additional revenue or to discourage, commercial people from using our landfill?
Director Photo?
Lisa Photo, Director of Public Works. That's a good question, Alderman Jenny. So prior to raising the rates for C&D, we were getting a fair amount of commercial C&D, which was a problem. So raising the rate from $90 to $300 seems to, so far at least, have solved that problem. But the other major item that we get from commercial is trash, MSW. So we don't get much of that. Our fee for trash is $80 a ton. The average is probably around 65 or so at other facilities. Also, a lot of the major haulers have their own transfer stations, so they will tend to bring trash to their own transfer station. So really, The bulk of what we're getting for trash is for the residential credits that we have. And that's for the condominiums and for the apartment buildings that are picked up, and we give credits for those places. So the revenue that we do get from commercial does help support the facilities. So I would probably continue to do what we're doing as far as that goes.
Okay,
Thank you.
all set.
Yes, thank you.
The other question I have is, those 18-wheelers that, we're there for meetings, that are coming in left and right, what's in them?
Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. There's a combination. We're taking in the contaminated soil, which we spoke about before, to cover the trash at the end of the day in the landfill. And there's also a lot of clean fill that I'm starting to take in right now. If it's good material and good clean material, I'll take it in, because we're gonna need a lot of material to build the zigzag, and I don't want the city to have to purchase any soils. So if I can get anything in that's decent or usable, I'll take it in. So my environmental engineer at the landfill's been doing, looking at all these soil packages and everything from people coming in. We're taking in quite a bit, and it's gonna help out the city in the long run.
So we're looking at the new building, which is progressing well. You were talking about additional monies for maintenance of your current building. Is that the duct tape to keep it together for a few more months?
Superintendent Jeff LaFleur. Yes, it is.
How much duct tape? I want to know linear feet.
A lot of duct tape and a lot of fans to keep the wind blowing through there.
And any alderman has them in there for a tour. It's worth every penny. I think that was basically my questions. Any others? Okay, then we'll move on. And by the way, I think we've always said that the solid waste was always subsidized by the general fund. So that's where that money came in that you were talking about. So the one that's sort of self-sufficient, wastewater user fund, Department 169, revenue on 231, appropriations on 232 to 236.
Dave Boucher, wastewater superintendent. I'll start with revenue, page 231. There is a reduction, main contributors, lines 43530, state aid reimbursements adjustments, as well as 48300, the general obligation bond proceeds. This is due to adjustments in the capital improvement requested projects in FY23. I'll go on to appropriations. In the 51 account, we have increases due to contractual obligations in the wages and salaries, as well as the fringe benefits section. In the professional and technical services, is a small increase, some due to postage increases, billing increases, as well as the audit contract increase. Moving down to property services, heavy increase in, mainly in our disposal services. We have a new contract with RMI, who's the company we use to haul our sludge and land apply it. We've got a new 3-year contract. The cost for hauling this is significantly increased, so we see a larger increase there. We do have an overhaul on one of our pumps in our wet weather facilities this year, which is costly. So there's an increase in the 54487 line. And also we're seeing parts increases also. So we have increases in our 54600 account, the vehicle repairs and maintenance section. Other contracted services, we're also seeing increases. I have main increases in other contracted services, the 55699. We have a company coming in to service our generators, our new energy recovery generators, as well as our new generators and our upgraded pump stations throughout the city. Also for servicing our HVAC equipment, our newer HVAC equipment at the wastewater plant. I'll jump back here. Also increases in the 55421 account. That's the account we use for training our employees. We have a lot of employees who are licensed, Licenses are coming up for renewals, so they need to attend classes in order to gain credit hours to maintain their licenses. Supplies and materials, the main increase there is in 61156, our chemical account. The chemicals we use to treat the wastewater, we have that, we bid that out every year. We saw some major increases this year, so we have to account for that. And under the equipment account, 71,000 and the 71,025, just mainly all the equipment that we purchased, we're seeing an increased cost in that. And there's some new tools that we need, specialty tools to service our equipment at the wastewater facility that we built in there in order to purchase. Those are the main increases. In the debt service, we have obligations there. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions? Yes, Alderwoman Kelly.
I have no questions. I actually just wanted to say that I appreciate all the work you've done. You've definitely brought our wastewater treatment plant up to, we've seen you a lot in finance and all that. And it's self-funding, so.
Thank you.
That's great.
I give tours as well.
I will. It sounds exciting. Can I drive the boat around?
What's that?
Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Around the state aid reimbursements on the revenue side, how does the city find out, when does the city find out that we will not be getting as much money in this fiscal year to prior fiscal year? How does that happen? And what can we do about it, seeing as we have a sizable state or city representation at the state level? Is there anything we can do about that?
Carolyn O'Connor, Finance Manager. These particular items are for completed projects, and so we already have a schedule of, it's 20% of the cost of the project if it's been approved once it's completed. So the drop off here is that the projects that were already completed and approved, some of them they've already finished paying our grant funds.
Got it. So there are no new projects that would qualify for state aid coming online in fiscal year 23?
Not in 23, but we continuously submit pre-applications for the state aid grants, and we make sure that our projects comply with the rules and regulations so that we will get the funding if it's available.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from wastewater? By the way, the state has almost $500 million in excess revenues that our reps ought to find a way to spend for cities and towns.
I agree.
Don't get me started. I wrote a bill. You started it. Here it goes. I wrote a bill, 1417, for those at home, go research it. Basically, with the state obligations to the pensions was 35%. They went down to 0. So Nashua had for 11 years had to pay that money. I wrote the bill, put it in, trying to get 7.5, 1/4. It didn't come. And there's a surplus. You're right. It's ridiculous how one party can really tighten up the purse strings. You think they would spread that money around. How much is it, Nashua? That is 7.5% is $2 million, which is 1% of the tax rate. So it is large. It's huge. So.
Wasn't it on the governor's desk?
Yeah, that's a different one. They went to the one time only.
Oh, the one time, yeah.
One time only. Until there's, well, there's always November. All right, we'll leave it at that.
Yes, any other questions for anything in Public Works and Engineering? If not, thank you very much for coming in. You guys do a great job, and we fully appreciate it.
Good job,
Thank you. And soon you'll have a new building.
We're working on it.
Working on it, yes. Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion to table R-22-035, which is relative to the adoption of fiscal year 2023 proposed budget for the city of Nashua General Enterprise Special Revenue and Grant Funds.
Motion on the floor is to table R-22-035 035, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. The next item will be public comment. Is there anyone that wishes to be heard in public comment?
Yes, Lori Ortolano,
Address?
41 Berkeley Street. Can you
Good.
hear me?
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to state that I thought the Public Works budget was pretty well done. I would like to ask that there be some efficiency studies done on, how scheduling is being handled, rolling out trucks, setting schedules for different departments, as well as inventory on equipment. I know that was asked at the last meeting, and I don't know if any alderman got a report from John Griffin on that. I'd also like to share a few comments about the spending cap that's going to be discussed next Monday. I know some of the aldermen at the table expressed concerns that the local courts ruled against the spending cap, and then the state legislature passed legislation, thereby stepping on the authority of local control. And I gave some thought to that because I, filed a big right to know lawsuit on assessing records. And really, that was a very high-risk lawsuit to take through the courts. My preference was to have legislative changes done, but I couldn't get anyone in Nashua to support me because there's such a strong Democratic contingency. They weren't interested in working with somebody who they viewed either as a Republican or an independent. And for 2019 and 2020, I wanted to try and get legislation passed on those issues with property record cards and assessor records, and I couldn't do it. So I ended up in a lawsuit. And frankly, if I had lost my suit, I would be going forward to have legislative changes done. And I still am going to go forward for some legislative changes because I think I'd like to see some of this broadened a little more than I got on the court ruling. You shouldn't be so harsh and discriminatory about people using the legislative process to try and make changes because the courts don't always get it right. Complicated issues, you're at the mercy of, getting the right judge, having the right circumstances. I brought a very technical case into the courts. It was enormously expensive, very difficult, and very high risk. And my choice would be not to have done that. But I didn't have a legislative option. And I think the spending cap brought into court is, again, a very technical and heavy topic. And it's easy to have, a decision made that isn't exactly where you thought it should be or where it should be. So please bear that in mind. Thank you.
Okay. We had general discussion. Alderman Tebow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say a couple things. So I've been to each of these budget meetings or at least watched them through either Zoom or after the fact. I watched a 3-hour one from last week today. And I just want to first thank Alderman Dowd. I think he's done a tremendous job of running these meetings and trying to do the best he can for Nashua and for this board. He's been attacked a lot lately. I think I got 3 letters with basically the same exact thing today, stating some things that I don't agree that Mr. or Alderman Dowd would do. I think he is trustworthy and he's trying to do the right thing. And also watching those meetings, I think there's a lot of us being new and probably a lot of people out there too that aren't part of this process that think that this budget, there's a lot of silver bullets where we can just take out $1 million here and $2 million here and 150,000 here, and it just gives all that money back to the people. And it doesn't quite work that way. This is a pretty tight budget so far from what I've seen. And I think the mayor is trying to do the right thing. I think he's trying to, ensure that we don't have to have the tax rate go up. I think the only thing I've seen that, maybe a discussion point really is that paralegal position. And even that would not do anything for the tax rate of this city. I think, some of the things Alderman Dowd said last week, that the mayor has at his disposal to bring the tax rate down is a good idea. And I think some of the other things we have to look at is bringing more revenue into the city. Everything's going up in the world, including Nashua. And so I would expect the tax rate to go up as much as I don't want that. I was laid off for a year, so, I don't have tons of money to give to the city. But we have to find other ways to bring in money to the city to kind of affect that tax rate, because I don't think there's going to be tons and tons of stuff we can cut in this budget that's actually going to make that happen. And I'm finding that it's tremendously expensive to manage a city. And I didn't know any of that before coming in here. And I figured it, but when you actually look at the numbers, it's astounding. And with gas going up and all that, and I do care about the person that's trying to, buy a home or trying to get by from day to day. So how else do we get money into the city so we can try to reduce that tax rate? I just don't think it's going to be chopping large bunches out of this budget without hurting either a department, which will domino effect hurt citizens somewhere else in the city, or hurt the people that we would be laying off or letting go or whatnot. So I just wanted to make that piece because I'm not going to be here for the next couple budget meetings, and my son's graduating next Monday, so I will not be at that meeting. But I will watch it because I do want to learn a lot about the spending cap, since it's really been a bunch of, a big topic of conversation. So thank you.
Okay, any other? Aldermanic comments? I just want to make one comment. The person saying that we had private meetings, try and not bring forward the information on the spending cap is totally off base. We had to wait till the mayor got back from California, and as soon as he was here, I contacted Alderman Wilshire to talk to the mayor to get the meeting set up for Monday. That's what was asked for, but it requires the mayor and the attorney and John Griffin all be here for that meeting. So Monday we'll have the meeting to explain the city's position on the spending cap. It's not something that can be affected by this committee, the budget committee, or possibly not even the entire Board of Aldermen per se, because it's a legal question and a legal definition, and we will find out exactly how that's calculated. Anything else? Alderman O'Brien?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion on the floor is to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned at 8:30.